On Point, hosted by Peter van Aartrijk. Conversations with interesting and informative experts on technology, branding, culture, social media marketing, and other great topics.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Peter van Aartrijk, your host for On Point, brought to you by our good friends at Wells Media, which includes Carrier Management, Insurance Journal, and other fine publications. Our guest today is Dan Schuleman, who's the CEO and co-founder of the InsureTech Qumis. And for those who want to check out the website, it's qumis.ai. And Dan, before you were doing this, you served some time, so to speak, as an insurance attorney, which is kind of interesting. You are a self-described insurance nerd, which is a whole cottage industry out there, and it says so on your website. So I'm not accusing you. I'm just embracing you as a insurance nerd. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be an insurance nerd, the few, the proud.
Yeah, we could talk more about what that encompasses. Well, tell us. So let's start with you, Dan. Where are you from originally, and what are some key moments that led to where you're at today?
Yeah, well, and thanks for having me on.
Sure.
It's really nice to meet you, and I'm excited for this conversation. I actually grew up in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities.
And, Minnesota. Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah. You might pick up on it a few times.
That's okay.
Most people are surprised. No accent over here.
Okay. Yeah, my wife's family is from Minnesota, so I'm getting it all the time. Oh, it's so fun. I love it. I think it's cool. I know a lot of people make fun of it, but it's kind of a sing-songy thing. The people are so nice up there. The in-laws are from East Grand Forks up, northern Minnesota.
Oh, nice. Yes. It's a beautiful, beautiful area.
Yeah.
People are extremely nice. I accepted that I'm a Midwestern guy through and through. I came to Chicago for college. I just wanted a bigger city. And then stuck around.
It's great. I'm from Jersey, so people are always like, "What's the agenda with the Midwest? What are they like? Is it no? They're just nice."
Yep,
we're a little edgier.
No agenda.
No agenda. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So pretty simple. Came here for college and wanted to stick around. Then I went to law school at the University of Illinois in Champaign, and then came back and practiced in Chicago. I know it's very common for most people to have stumbled into insurance. Usually, I like to ask the question when I meet other insurance professionals. How'd you end up here? For me, I took a class on insurance law in law school with a professor that I really liked. Seemed interesting, just kind of cerebral, diving into the forms and the laws related there too. And, there are a lot of jobs. So, it's often hard to get a job out of law school. And, I saw there were a lot of jobs in this area. I liked the professor. The class, had a writing sample as kind of the test. And so I was able to use that, writing sample to apply for jobs, and then started down the trajectory of being a coverage attorney. Is kind of what brought me there.
Okay. Did you have like a specialty on coverage, like property, liability?
Yeah, generally in the commercial liability lines.
Okay.
So did property, a lot of CGL, construction stuff.
E&O,
D&O, some cyber, the complex stuff where lawyers get involved. Just a lot of messes.
Oh my gosh.
Just a lot of messes.
Oh yeah, and some of it's so tragic,
Yes.
There's so many stories in construction and work comp and commercial auto, and just bad accidents and just bad behavior and just sheer stupidity. And people don't realize insurance is kind of important. You really need to have it. So many layers, I like how you said, so many messes. But I'm sure you learned a lot.
Certainly learned a lot, both, the the literal mechanics of insurance, how to read a form and apply that to a set of facts and make a decision, and kind of stand by that decision, and also kind of the operations that go behind that, and especially where, things can go wrong that make it land on a law firm's desk, which can also be kind of frustrating.
Yeah. I remember you remind me of not you per se, but just as your comments, a guy by the name of Bill Wilson. I don't know if you know Bill Wilson, but he grew up with the Tennessee Big I, and then he went to work as well with the Independent Insurance Agents of Progressive America. See, he was a coverage guy. I taught a lot of classes about policies for continuing ed and so forth. Just a brilliant guy. He's also a really good guitar player, so he had both sides of his brain working. But in his swan song retirement speech a few years back, I'm sitting in the audience, and he goes, I just have one thing I want to say to you all as I leave. He's a funny guy. He goes, remember the phrase RTFP, read the effing policy. And because it's always like, is it covered or not? Well, read, what does the policy say, right?
It's so funny you mentioned that, because in a lot of ways, that's kind of our mission at Qumis, which is, to read the effing policies.
Yeah.
Right. Brokers, obviously in claims, they read the policies all day, but, if for me personally, if I have a broker, placing business with me, I want them to know what they're selling me, especially some of these policies are really expensive and they're really complicated. And the way I think about it is, if I'm buying a Ferrari at a dealer, I expect that car salesman to know what's under the hood, and exactly the specifications of that vehicle. And if I'm paying, $1 million on premium for some sort of package, I want the salesman to know exactly what's under the hood. And for us, the only way to do that is to read it. And that's up until now been a slow line by line PDF process with Control F and your brain and maybe a phone call. And that's, kind of what we're trying to fix.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder back in the day when it all first started, the insurance industry, the policies were probably a lot more vague and a lot more simple, they'd say things like all risk and so forth. But over time, as there was more claims and case law and lawyers involved, the language got more tortured and just lengthier, explanatory. Like an exclusion to an exclusion means it's covered, kind of, maybe,
Yeah.
it's a whole thing, and insurance service officer, the old ISO used to write these. I remember going to NAIC meetings and listening to these explanations of what they're trying to, and then the endorsements started, like hundreds of endorsements. So it's very complicated. Totally agree with you. But you're at were we an insurance carrier working on the claim side, or were you with a law firm per se?
I was at law firms representing the carriers.
Okay. So then what happens? You're there, you kind of chose insurance. Said this looks like a decent industry. What happens next? How do you get to the point where you're co-founding an AI fueled InsureTech?
Yeah, well, kind of in the background is that I've always been a techie person. I've always liked technology. I've always kind of kept up to date on what's going on in technology. Been reading blogs for years, and starting at the law firms, I was really surprised when, and this wasn't that long ago, where someone printed out a policy, put it in a 3-ring binder, and plopped it on my desk with some highlighters and sticky notes and said, "Mark this up." To which I said, "What year is it?"
Right.
And, so that was kind of an inherent friction that I felt from the very beginning. And then working at law firms for some years, kind of got to a point where I knew what I was doing and I knew I didn't want to do this forever. It just wasn't the life for me in terms of, I enjoyed learning how to operate in the weeds and being an insurance nerd. I just didn't feel like it was personally sustainable for a 30-year career for me. And so then I wanted to go in-house, which is kind of the promised land for a lot of lawyers at law
Mhm.
firms.
Mhm.
Um, and was able to land a gig as a early legal hire at Kin Insurance, which is a venture capital-backed startup here in Chicago that does direct-to-consumer homeowners insurance. And so I was able to kind of leverage my insurance background, but this role was more just kind of general corporate counsel. I worked closely with the GC and just kind of doing everything, from accounting to HR to commercial transactions and some insurance regulatory stuff as well. And I certainly think that, my kind of insurance nerd origins helped me succeed in that role because I just kind of knew kind of underlying how the business operated. And Kin was really cool too because Kin was a full carrier. So it was a startup and a carrier. And so we were doing, I always would think about how, we had to do the exact same filings that our brethren at Allstate, were doing. And I think the folks at Allstate doing these filings had, more gray in their beard than me when they were doing the same thing. And so it was a great kind of learning experience, kind of understanding the fundamentals of the business of being a carrier and also a high growth startup. And so that kind of gave me the bug,
Yeah.
being there, and the culture is so awesome. The just really kind of hustly, bias for action. Just looking for talented people who just want to hustle,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
really really flat and empowering culture. And so I was really invigorated by that too.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the law firms depict it on TV, TV shows, which some of them are just really good, like Suits, and they do depict this bustling atmosphere. But I suspect it wasn't quite as much fun as working at a carrier. What was the name? What was the name of that company again? I feel like I've been living under a rock. How did I miss the name of this direct-to-consumer carrier?
Kin, Kin.
Ken. Yeah. Jeez, what is wrong with me? Okay, is it still around? I guess we can all
Yeah,
Google
yeah,
it.
they're
Okay.
crushing it. They're doing a really great job. They're expanding,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it's a great team.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I've heard some ads on Sirius XM somewhere. It's possible.
They're
Okay.
big in Florida. They're really big in Florida. They have an
Mhm.
office in St. Pete, actually. And
Okay.
so their strategy is to kind of start in the areas that are the most difficult to underwrite. And so they've
Uh-huh.
done they've done a really great job placing a lot of business in Florida.
Yeah, we got that down here in spades. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you want lawsuits over the claim on your roof, we got them. If you want floods, we got that. Hurricanes. If you want to write non-admitted, good luck because everybody's running non-admitted. But
yep.
it's nuts. It's nuts down here. Oh man. Well, hopefully it'll get better. I don't know if the storms will, but the way out might. It's an interesting time for the standard insurance industry, and I think why we're seeing some interesting new ways to cover things, or maybe not traditional like coverage per se, but things like parametric products. It's a fascinating time, Dan, but I want to get into Qumis, what you're trying to do, the mission, your target customer. I see you have a vision, which I love. I love when I see vision statements on websites, the vision for a better world for those customers you're targeting, and just the overall, what are you trying to do as well? We can get into some of your AI tools.
Yeah, definitely. Ultimately, the kind of core friction that we're trying to solve is that friction